1-247-815050. Downtown Radio.
Good afternoon. Welcome to a special 2-hour cross-border phone-in on the political agreement reached in Belfast on Good Friday. For the first time, province-wide Downtown Radio is linking with Ireland's national independent station Today FM. So we'll be taking calls from listeners in Northern Ireland and the Republic. In Downtown Radio, this is Harry Castles, and the number to call if you're in Northern Ireland is 01247 815050.
FM in Dublin, this is Matt Cooper. The number to call if you want to express your opinion on air if you're in the Republic is 1850 85 55 55. Well, by now most people will have had at least some idea of what is contained in the Stormont Agreement. The main elements are a power-sharing assembly in Belfast, cross-border bodies, new institutions linking the various parts of the two islands, early release of prisoners provided ceasefires remain intact, assurances that there will be no change in the constitutional status of Northern Ireland without the consent of the people there, and amendments to Articles 2 and 3 of the Irish Constitution.
Plenty of issues to inspire debate, and in less than 4 weeks we'll all have the opportunity, north and south of the border, to cast our votes for or against the agreement. This afternoon, we want to get a rough guide to the thinking of Downtown and Today FM listeners. So we've set up special vote lines for you to record your vote. If you're in Northern Ireland, the number to ring for a yes to the agreement is 0891 252 627. That's for yes, it's 0891 252 627. And the number for no to the agreement is 0891 252 628. That's 0891 252 628.
We also have vote lines set up in the Republic, and the number for a yes vote is 1550 131 200. That's 1550 131 200. And if you want to vote no, the number there is 1550 131 201. That's 1550 131 201 for a no vote.
And we'll give you those numbers throughout the programme. OK, let's go to our first caller, and that's in Northern Ireland. We have a lady from Donaghadee. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My question I would like to put across today is, as far as regards to the union is concerned, you know, we are told by the pundits, etc., that the union is safe, but yet when you ask the question, how is the union safe? As far as the unionist side of the divide, they say, yes, the union is safe. But if you ask someone from the Nationalist and Republican community, they will tell you that it's a stepping stone to a united Ireland.
Yes, everyone is attempting to put their own interpretation on it.
Been honest.
But the unionist defence at the moment and the Yes campaign is that the consent of the people is a guarantee, and that amendments to Articles 2 and 3 of the Irish Constitution are also some sort of guarantee as well. Do you feel that the union is not safe in the agreement?
Well, I would be very much concerned that we're giving away the sovereignty issue with regards to the 1920 Government of Ireland Act. But yet, as far as the changes to Articles 2 and 3, if it does not work out, people who are voting in the South are automatically being told if it doesn't work out and it goes back to more of the same or whatever, then their constitution will change back to what it originally was. So, you know, but and on that stage, as far as unionists in Northern Ireland are concerned, they will have lost their sovereignty from the 1920 Government of Ireland Act, but yet the Republic of Ireland will still go back to its old Articles 2 and 3 and its old call and claim on the Northern Ireland.
Right. If the constitutional position of Northern Ireland is changed from it is at the moment, but there is that assurance that only with the consent of the people of Northern Ireland would there be any further change, does that not satisfy you?
Well, I still have reservations.
And what would satisfy you, do you think?
Well, to be quite honest with you, the issue being is that you need to have something concrete. For a lot of people who have fears, you have your both your loyalist and your loyalist paramilitaries and your Republican paramilitaries, and as far as I, as a middle of the road person, are concerned, is that they're getting everything they want. But what happens to the people who haven't gone out with their bomb and their bullets? What have they got? Nothing. So I would be still quite concerned that we give this sovereignty issue away. If you look at Scotland, 75, the part I'm talking about of the Government of Ireland Act 75 is actually being put in to Scotland before they have their assembly up and running.
Okay, you have reservations.
Yes.
Have you decided which way you're going to vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, let's go to Matt Cooper in Dublin.
Thanks, Harry. Our first call is from Tess in Blackrock in County Dublin. And I believe, Tess, you want to make some point about cross-border bodies.
Well, only, first of all, I'd like to say I'm absolutely delighted about the peace settlement, and I sincerely hope that the government can do something to, help the electorate in the south of Ireland to accept the changes to Articles 2 and 3. And we certainly want the people of the north of Ireland to know that we have nothing but goodwill towards them, and I would assume that people really just want to live in peace with one another.
What about the cross-border bodies? Do you think that they will improve the relationships between the north and the south?
I think that they should, yes. I mean, already you have cross-border relationships, where school and sport, etc. is concerned. So therefore, I think that only good can come of it. I think something we should always remember as well. I mean, we're a very, very small country, and the 6 counties is a very, very small area of land. So surely, it's only going to help both groups of people in the country if they can actually build as positive a relationship as they possibly can between the two areas.
There may be a lot of people who don't think like that. You made reference to perhaps various voluntary organisations cooperating with each other, but that's very different to having executive powers in a government position.
Well, it's not really, because we elect our politicians, and the politicians merely do what the electorate and the people want. And I think in the north of Ireland there seems to be a groundswell amongst the young that they want a chance to live in peace, and I think they should be given that chance. And equally in the south of Ireland, we must respect the fact that many, many people, both Catholic and Protestant in the north, want to stay within the union. So therefore, it's really the people who should dictate to the politicians. And hopefully the politicians, respect our wishes.
Do you believe that there will be an overwhelming vote in favour of the agreement in the Republic?
I think possibly people have an emotional attachment to the idea of a 32-county, republic, which is really just an emotional one. And I do think then that the government at the moment, they have a very big, they really have a responsibility to allow the people to know that it is going to help particularly the people of the north of Ireland, and indeed the south of Ireland. We want everyone to live in peace and with as much comfort in their lives as possible. And I would sincerely hope that in the south of Ireland there is an overwhelming majority who will vote, for the changes.
Okay, Tess, thank you very much for joining us in the programme this morning. I just want to remind listeners in the Republic that if you want to phone in and come on air, the number to reach us at is 1850 85 55 55. Back to you, Harry.
And the number here in Northern Ireland is 01247 815050 if you're calling from the north. Right, to our next caller, and that's Gerard in Guildford. Hello, Gerard. County Down.
Hello, Harry.
Yes, sir.
Well, Harry, it's about the agreement. I think personally I'd like to thank all the politicians and George Mitchell and Mo Mullen and the whole lot of them for the great effort that put in getting this paper forward for the people to vote on. And I wish people would realise that eventually we're going to be run from Europe anyway. And it'll not matter whether we have a North of Ireland or South of Ireland or whatever. And we need a parliament here in Northern Ireland to do the best for us in Europe and to get all the money that we can get off them. And I think that if people vote no to this, what they're saying is let the terrorists go ahead shooting and bombing.
You think that it will be the consequence of a no vote?
Oh, I do, surely. I think, see, what are we going to come up with? Like they've said for 2 years, working all this out. And quite honestly, I've read the agreement, and I can't see anything in it really to offend any other side. We're both getting the same. You know, like, we're not going to get a united Ireland, majority in the north, you know, want it. And consequently, the southern government is going to change the Constitution, Articles 1 and 2. So I can't see the big problem in this.
Can you see the concerns that some people have, particularly in the unionist community, I think, about the early release of prisoners?
Oh, I have, surely. Harry, I'm a victim of the IRA. I was held, myself and my wife was held hostage for 3 hours in the caretaking and used as a bomb. So, like, I mean to say, yes, I don't agree wholeheartedly with letting people out willy-nilly, but they're not getting let out willy-nilly. You know, they're only getting let out on license, according to the agreement. And the thing is, I can see what's going to happen eventually. When they're all out, over the years, right, they'll probably turn the H blocks into a tourist thing.
Gerard, can I ask you about your own experience that you've just told us about there? You and your wife held hostage and your car used as a car bomb. I mean, how would you feel if the people responsible for that came walking down the street towards you someday and they're out of prison? How would you feel about that?
Well, there's one already out, and he's quite prominent as far as I know now. And like I mean to say, it's no big deal to me. Like I mean to say, the thing is, it happened, and okay, I don't know. If we're going to keep holding these grudges, you know, we're never going to get anywhere. You know, we have to stop holding grudges. You know, we're going to have to start trying to trust each other and live together. You know, like I mean to say, if we don't, there's no future for any of us.
Okay, Gerard. Thank you very much indeed.
Right, thank you, Harry.
Thank you. A reminder of the vote line numbers again. That's if you don't actually want to come on to the programme and give us your point of view, but you do want to register a yes or a no to the agreement. If you're calling from Northern Ireland, a yes is 0891 252 627 and a no is 0891 252 628, and your call should cost no more than 10 pence. Matt.
Want to register your vote in the Republic of Ireland, a yes vote is 1550 131 200, but if you want to register a no vote, it is 1550 131 201. Okay, we'll take a call now from Paul, who's on line 7, and I believe he wants to make a comment about needing to understand the unionist and loyalist culture more in the north, here in the south. Good evening, Paul.
Good afternoon, Matt. Very good idea to do this show with Harry, and I'm enjoying both of you. I just want to say that a number of the comments in the last few minutes have placed the emphasis on what the politicians have to do, and of course the political process over the next few months is going to be crucial, just as it has been in the last 6 months to a year. But I do really think that the ordinary citizen in the Republic needs to assume more of the burden of integration and reconciliation. And on every level, but particularly on a level that hasn't really been mentioned very much, which is the cultural level. Whenever the remotest amount of curiosity is shown by anybody in the Republic of Ireland about unionist, loyalist and Protestant culture, and that is very seldom, but when it is shown in order to attack it. And I was very disappointed when I attended a meeting sponsored by the late Alexis Fitzgerald's widow, Barbara, about a year ago in a hotel in Dublin, in which the avowed purpose was to allow the two sides to talk to each other. The ordinary Republic of Ireland, generally as it was, middle-class Catholic, talking to their northern Protestant brethren. After some cordial introductions and a reasonably warm 20 minutes or so, it became clear that there was a certain amount of, I don't hesitate to use the word sectarianism, but there was certainly a hostility, not merely to the fractious encounters between northern Protestants and Catholics, as in Garvaghey Road, but there seemed to be either an indifference to or possibly hostility to Protestant Northern culture. And there's no point in protesting about this. It's like the weather. People down south here presumably feel a certain ancient animosities, and fair enough, there they are. But I do think it's up to us now to explore that culture. I mean everything. I mean the banners. I mean the marching bands. I mean the songs, the theology even, going back to the Reformation. We need to know about this.
Do you think that people perhaps in the South treat the North really as a separate country with a very different way of doing things, different beliefs, different traditions, and actually a sort of a partitionist mentality has developed in the South where people in the South want little enough to do with the North?
That's very, very true, and I'd have to say mea culpa there, because I don't really know. I mean, I understand the work ethic, the Protestant work ethic, and the Protestant, the perhaps slightly more pragmatic approach they have to life than we do, or than is part of our tradition. But I'm not so much worried that we regard it as different, because I think it probably is quite different. What worries me is that we're not exploring it, and we're not giving it the cultural respect it deserves. I mean, I would love to see, I think the Irish Museum of Modern Art made a small gesture in that direction. I think they had some kind of exhibition of loyalist murals or something of that nature. I'd like to see more of that. And as far as I can understand it, we only understand loyalist culture as something that stops us getting what we want. Well, now, I would really be very... I think it would be a very good sign if somebody down south who felt like that, or large groups of people who had Republican credentials, set themselves a task of seeing what they could get that was positive from the Protestant loyalist tradition. There must be positive things. The work ethic alone is a positive thing, but that's something we should look at.
Do you not think it could work the other way as well, though, that perhaps there should be more interest taken in what goes on in the South, and that perhaps there are cliched views amongst people in the North of what Southerners are like?
That's a reasonable point. That's a reasonable point. But I think that at this particular historical junction, it would show a lot of good faith, and it would be more appropriate, I think, if we down here took the initiative. Because I think that the loyalist minority as it is on the island, majority as it is up there, has some good reason to feel under siege. They feel the Americans are against them, we down south are against them, and they probably feel that Tony Blair is indifferent to them. So I think it's up to us to make the gesture. We should have really made it 10 years ago, when we could have argued that we had little to gain. But it's not too late now, but we really have to be serious about it. And I don't think it's enough to say, oh, the politicians must do this and that. We have to do it. We should travel up there more often. We should look at their history. We should see what motivates them to want to maintain that link. Not just a political link, but all sorts of cultural links.
Can I ask you, Paul, do you travel north?
No, I don't, and I was the first to say mea culpa a few minutes ago. I mean, I started at that meeting in that hotel to say, yes, I'm at a loss here. I don't know about these people. I don't have sufficient curiosity about them. I'm not sufficiently tolerant of them. And I did make a few attempts to rectify that. But I'd like other people to do that, and I'd like to try and do that myself a little bit more. Apart from anything else, we need to let them believe that if there is something approaching in United Ireland, possibly not the full Monte, as it were, but something approaching that in cultural and economic terms in the next 10 years, that they won't be at a loss, that their culture won't dwindle away.
Okay, Paul, thank you very much for making the contribution. I would just like to remind listeners in the Republic of Ireland, if they want to contact us, they can ring us at 1850 85 55 55. Back to you, Harry.
Thanks, Matt. And the number in Northern Ireland is 01247 815050. Your opportunity to express your views Ireland-wide. Okay, we'll be back with more of your calls in a moment or two. It's approaching 24 minutes past 12. You're tuned to a special 2-hour cross-border phone-in on the political agreement, linking downtown radio in Northern Ireland with Today FM, the national independent station in the Republic of Ireland. You're welcome to call us on 01247 815050 if you're in Northern Ireland. And we'll take another caller who has done just that, Jim in County Down. Hello, Jim.
Hello, Harry.
Yeah, Jim.
Harry, I would class myself as a reasonable working class, if you like, broad. I'm going to vote yes in the referendum because, I mean, I don't want my kids growing up with any more of this hassle and violence. But I do have one slight reservation, and that's censorship. I'm a reasonable age. I can remember if you bought certain Sunday newspapers in the South that photographs would be cut out of it. And recently, my wife and I were down in Dublin, and she bought one of these ladies' mags. I can't remember. It was one of these Marie Claire type mags. And in fact, all the pages at the back where the abortion clinics and stuff like that are, they were all cut out. Do we still have press censorship in the Republic? I mean, we take these things for granted, whether you like them or not, but perhaps somebody down there could maybe answer my question.
Okay, we'll see if we get a response from our callers in the Republic.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you very much indeed, Jim.
Bye-bye now.
Okay, Matt in Dublin, have you more callers there for us?
Indeed. Well, I think maybe just even to comment on that last caller that you had to your own line, we certainly don't have press censorship down here in the South along those lines. I know in particular what the caller was referring to about information being cut out of magazines. That certainly doesn't happen here anymore, and photographs aren't censored either. Anyway, we'd go on to another caller. We have on line 8, we have Joan from Dundalk. Good afternoon, Joan.
Good afternoon to you all, and I'm delighted that the everyday people have a chance to listen to each other's viewpoints and show mutual respect, which is what Ireland is all about. Now, I want to vote yes. I go up to the north very often. I've got many, many friends, and we talk in the kitchens, in the homes, and we all have respect for each other. But I just have one or two reservations. I suggested Drumcree and other such marches taking place may well interfere with the mutual agreement already reached on trust, reconciliation and peace for all, and I believe that this may give a lot of voters concern.
Well, what would you do about Drumcree when it comes up early in July?
Well, the knowledge I have of Drumcree is that it's not a parade that takes place over 15 minutes or 20 minutes. It's a parade that unfortunately keeps a lot of the everyday people, nationalists alike, in their homes as virtual prisoners for the whole weekend. They feel very threatened, and I believe that there should be a new ruling or conversation brought in whereby if people would either agree to dismantle all marches or indeed have them marching through areas that will not impose a threat or anger.
Would you not think that perhaps it would be better to reroute marches rather than try and deny people the opportunity to express their legitimate right to gather?
Yes, indeed. I've suggested that in another way. Perhaps they should reroute. But I believe Drumcree over the past 2 years has caused great worry and concern. And I believe this is the time before voters come out together. Because after all, this is Trimble's constituency, very important. And the everyday people that you talk to up there say everything is going fine. There will always be those who will continue with the bombing, but the main people are there to talk together. But Drumcree is a big issue. We worry. And if we see some change in the consideration or on consideration of Drumcree, I think this will enlighten a lot of people and give great happiness to many.
Do you think that there are people who will deliberately try to stir it up at Drumcree to create problems for peace and the agreement?
Yes, I do indeed. I believe there will be people that will come from overseas that will be deliberately there. This will happen, of course, in all sections of North and South in the weeks ahead. The bombings, the punishment beatings, we can't ignore them, but we've got to in one way and say, look, if we've got the main body of people, North and South, who are endeavouring for peace, then we have hope. And I believe that Drumcree still remains quite an issue.
Joan, there are a lot of people who would say that parades didn't become an issue until the last number of years when Sinn Féin deliberately targeted them as a way to stir up trouble in the north.
Yes, I would agree on that, but there again, I suppose we could say touche along the years, and we're trying not to look back, we're trying to look forward. And there will be a lot of people who will say there was trouble from Sinn Féin, there's trouble from the people in the north, there's trouble all around us, but let's go and get rid of these troubleshooters and come to some decision will be agreeable to all.
Okay, Joan, thank you very much for joining us on the line. We want to encourage people in the Republic to ring us with their comments on 1850 85 55 55. You also have your opportunity to register a yes or a no vote for the agreement. If you want to vote yes, it's 1550 131 200. If you want to vote no, it's 1550 131 201. Back to you, Harry.
And in Northern Ireland, if you want to use the vote line to register yes or no, the yes number is 0891 252 627. The no line is 0891 252 628. And we've just done a check a few minutes ago, And after about 20 minutes of those vote lines open, 44% in Northern Ireland of the callers are saying yes, and 56% are saying no to the agreement. So that was the first indication that we have on the vote lines. And we'll go back to Matt.
Yes, and our indication is a yes vote of 79.5% in the south and a no vote of 20.5%. Back to Harry.
A big difference there, Matt. Right, we'll go to our next caller now, Michael in Belfast. Hello, Michael. Oh, I beg your pardon. We'll go to Mary in Belfast. Hello, Mary. Are you there?
Hiya, Harry.
Hello, Mary.
Harry, I just want to ask the question is, why is there such a big problem if this does become United Ireland?
You're asking, why is it a big problem? Mm-hmm. Well, down the years we've seen unionists being very determined that they will have nothing to do with United Ireland. Mm-hmm. That unionist population, as you'll appreciate, is the majority population, and very determined to resist United Ireland. I mean, look at the furore we have over the agreement. We have an Ulster Unionist Party, which looks to be somewhat split over the whole thing, and much of that seems to be on the proposed institutions between North and South. I take it you don't see a problem?
No, not really, because at the end of the day, I grew up under the British rule, and I think at the end of the day, we just need maybe a bit of a change, but I'll never get a bit of a change if this is going to keep going on. You know, we're talking about the marches again. I live in the nationalist area. Now, in a few weeks' time, we're going to have the Tour of the North. The last time we had the Tour of the North, I had just had a baby, and he was 3 weeks old.
This is the band parade in North Belfast? In
North Belfast, yes. And we were hemmed in. We had the RUC hanging on our railings, outside our doors, jeep loads. And, look, after just having a baby, and you weren't up to it, and there was not one bit of consideration took in. We weren't allowed to go to the shops. The other children were all put in the house, all looking out the windows to see what was going on. And after it, there was sporadic rain, and this is what we have to live with. At the end of the day, the bands go home and close their front doors. But we are left here with the rain, the violence, the houses being destroyed. You name it, Harry. I just don't think it's too far. Why do they want to march down Catholic areas?
Mary, you asked the question, what's the problem with United Ireland?
Mm-hmm.
I could ask you, do you have a problem with the situation as it is at the moment that Northern Ireland is part of Britain?
Yes. I think it's been a part of Britain for too long. I think what you do need is a new police force and everything just cleaned out. Let people get on with their own lives.
Well, what about the agreement? Because the agreement doesn't deliver a United Ireland unless the majority population at some future stage wish it to be so. What are your feelings then on the agreement?
Well, I haven't made up my mind yet on the agreement, personally myself, but I don't know. It's just this United Ireland bit. They keep harping on. I just want to know, would it be such a difference if it was a United Ireland?
No doubt we'll get some response from some of our listeners.
And I want to thank the Dublin people for taking time out to listen to your programme, Harry, and making their own comments.
OK, Mary.
That's great. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you very much indeed.
Right.
Right. Matt Cooper, how are you there?
Not too bad, Harry. We have a caller on line 1, Austin from Malahide in Dublin. And I believe, Austin, you believe that people in the north don't know as much about what goes on in the south as we in the south knows about what's going on in the north.
Exactly, because over the years I've been tuning into various Radio Ulster programs, like the Talkback at 12 o'clock. I think it's David Dunseat does it now. And there have been various other programs at 6 o'clock. And there's rarely a mention of anything happening in the Republic of Ireland. Whereas if we tune into our national stations in the Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, or the 6 counties, or call it what you will, is just reported upon as part of the whole, consistently. And this, I think, is where there is a big division, and probably why those within the Northern Ireland state don't seem to really know anything about us down here. I would love to see the day, and I look forward to the day, when we could have an orange parade through O'Connell Street in Dublin. It would be absolutely mighty. to have a festival on the 12th of July in Dublin.
Do you regard the parades as being festivals, or do you regard them as being an expression of power?
Well, Shin Scale Ella, they can be manipulated into, but I mean, if you look back, I suppose when it comes to which way will I vote, I haven't made my mind up. My grandfather, Commandant Hugh Maguire, was in the War of Independence. And, I suppose I would have a leaning towards a 32-county republic. But at the same time, we're in the 90s going into a new millennium, and I think the parades issue and that sort of thing have been hijacked by both sides. But realistically, if this agreement can bring about a modicum of understanding between the two parts of this one island, and that we can accommodate, which we should be able to do. I mean, what is a parade other than a celebration of a festival? It's a one-day. I know, and that last Lady Mary, and I thank her for her comments and welcoming Dublin listeners, I can understand if you're living there, those sorts of problems, but the rioting that follows, I wonder who instigates the rioting. These are all difficult questions, and hopefully that's what this agreement will ease away, and that we can look forward to an era of peace and stability and understanding and enjoyment.
Austin, do you think, though, that the agreement might actually lead to a situation where people in the north know more about people in the south, that they don't perhaps have many of the old cliched views of what people in the south are really like?
I think they will, and I think this is what I say about the radio station. You see, they're getting a biased view from the political leaders and political parties. Historically, that's been the case. But I think if they got more free access to radio programs, etc., on what's happening down here, as we seem to get on what's happening up there, it's not the ideal at the moment, but there would be a greater understanding. And I think there is almost an apathy in the south for what's happening in the north at this stage. And really, that if they knew that, they might understand that they could take advantage of us, perhaps, and with their canny business acumen, work wonders.
Okay, Austin, thank you very much for contributing to the programme this morning. If you want to call us here in the Republic, the line in which you can get us is 1850 85 55 55. And the current voting that we have at this stage on the yes-no, we have over 80% voting yes in the Republic and just under 20% voting no. Back to you, Harry.
And in Northern Ireland, yes is standing at 43% and no standing at 57%. We'll go to our next caller in Belfast. That's Michael. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Harry.
Yes, sir.
Michael here from Ballasone.
Mm-hmm.
Tell you what it is about this agreement here, which I can't understand is, before all these agreements things started, they were going to decommission. Nothing's happened. Nothing's talked about anymore. Can you help us on that?
Well, in fact, part of the agreement is the establishment of an international commission to get underway with the decommissioning, surely.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is there's nothing handed in as yet. And
well, the agreement hasn't even been voted on yet.
Not yet. But even if it does, one way or the other, whichever way it swings, personally I would be voting no for it, because I strongly disagree with it.
On what grounds?
A whole lot of things which has happened, like the decommissioning, that the IRA and everything get their own way. You just have to go. Now, the last caller there from the Free State, he says, who starts these riots? I live in North Belfast. I've seen them. As soon as the IRA can't get what they want, they're out in the streets burning, rioting. It's as simple as that. I feel terrible sorry for these people, but that's the way it goes.
So you will be a no voter?
Definitely.
On the grounds that, Sinn Féin is getting too much?
They're getting too much, for one thing. There was no decommissioning. They're letting all the prisoners out at the moment. I thought when the law was made that you have to do a certain amount of time or whatever it is, you have to abide by the law. But all of a sudden it changes.
Well, if it were to change, and thereby change the whole situation in which we live,
yes,
would you see that as worthwhile?
Not while there's killers running around the streets, no. Definitely not. I think these killers, no, they should be serving their time and not put back in the community. Because in the end of the day, if they don't get what they want, all these people, they'll be back in their arms and bombs again. I don't agree with it, but I think that's the way it's going to turn out. And we'll not be no further on.
Well, what about those who say that a no vote will inevitably lead to that, whereas a yes vote might give an opportunity, that we wouldn't return to that?
Well, if that would be right, then I would be all for it. But personally, I can't see it. I cannot say it, Harry. As I said to you earlier on, it's terrible sad, but I think that's the situation here.
You just don't have hope for the future?
No, definitely not.
And you don't think that this agreement gives any grounds for hope?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay.
Okay, Harry.
Thank you very much, Michael.
Thanks for having me.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Matt.
Thanks very much, Harry. Well, as we've looked through the poll here, it seems to be an overwhelming yes vote of those people who phoned in so far. But Brian on line 10 from Dunleera, I believe you want to just examine the possibility that there could be a no vote in the South, and what would happen then?
Yeah, I'd like to know, what would the interpretation put on a no vote be by the politicians?
Do you think that most of the political parties in the South are going to campaign actively in favour of a yes vote and will probably be very confident that it will go through? Would you not think that it will actually be carried as a yes?
I do, yeah, but like all these things, I think at the start you always feel that the initial sort of situation always appears that way until the arguments get going, and then you see, the polls start to go up and down and dip.
What do you think could actually bring about a no vote in the South? Do you think that Articles 2 and 3 will become a major issue?
Yeah, but see, the question I was really asking, that yes, that's the way, that would be the general way to accept it. But what I'm saying is, what happens if we can't interpret that a no vote means no, we don't have anything to do with it at all?
I would suggest that perhaps that hasn't been thought out too strongly, perhaps, down here in the South.
So you're assuming that if a person votes no, they're saying, well, we don't like the idea of no, 2 and 3. But, there'll be people out there saying, look, we don't have anything to do it, we can't afford it, we don't want it.
Are you suggesting that perhaps that there are people who say they just do not want any relationship between North and South, that they would actually have the partition copper and fastened and have very little relationship between the two parts of the island?
Apart from using words like partitions, copper fastened, I think people just want it as it is.
That people in the South just want to forget about everything that goes on in the North and get on with their own lives down here?
I think you'd be surprised the amount of people that would feel that way, that would say, why should we? I mean, you only have to hear them on various shows giving out about what we have to pay for various people all the time anyway, down here. And a lot of people seem to have this thing about, why should we take in more?
Do you not believe that people in the South have some sort of responsibility towards people living in the 6 counties who actually believe themselves to be Irish and want to be part of the island of Ireland as a whole unit?
Absolutely, I do. I agree fully, actually. I'd be voting probably yes myself, but I just thought, because they've wrapped everything up, that this can't happen in case that happens, and this can't happen unless that happens, it means it's like, say a referendum that simply is a yes and no vote, but just saying, well, I would have voted yes if.
Do you think it's the question, the problem that the way the questions are going to be phrased, that
Exactly.
perhaps it's all-encompassing and doesn't actually allow people to put different points of view across?
Direction, yeah, exactly. I mean, if you take, say, probably a bad example, if you take, many people would say, I'd vote for divorce if I knew for certain, whereas, say, the other side would say, no, we just want a simple yes and no vote. Because, sometimes the wording of a question suits the sides. It doesn't allow them people to express exactly what they really want.
Okay, Brian, thank you very much for your contribution. Of course, if you want to vote on our line here, you can vote for a yes vote on 1550 131 200. And if you want to vote no, it's 1550 131 201. Of course, we would like to talk to you on air. And if you want to call, it's 1850 85 55 55 to callers within the Republic of Ireland. Back to you, Harry.
And if you're in Northern Ireland, the number to call to make your comments today, 01247 815050. And if you simply want to register a vote on our phone lines, on the vote lines, it's yes is 0891 252 627. No to the agreement, 0891 252 628. More of your calls in a moment or two. You're listening to Province-wide Downtown Radio and Ireland's national independent station Today FM with a special phone-in on the Stormont agreement through until 2 o'clock today. And we go to Coleraine for our next caller, and that's Mita. Hello, Mita.
Hello, Harry.
Good afternoon.
I've been listening to your program here most of the morning since it came on. Just a couple of points I'd like to make. The first one, the agreement, I haven't read it myself personally, but my husband has. And from what he says, there's quite a few things in it that is geared, I won't say the other side, well, I will say the other side, the South, for them to get their own way in the United Ireland. I've grown up myself through the Troubles for about 30 years now, and I feel no matter what vote, the yes vote does go through, there'll be trouble, and if it's a no vote, there'll be trouble. But to me, why do they call it an agreement? If you you get my meaning on that.
Well, the majority of parties, political parties, have reached an agreement. They do represent the majority of the population in previous polls. So therefore, I would presume they feel entitled to call it an agreement.
Yes, the parties, you're talking about the people that are supposed to be talking for the people.
Yes, in previous polls, they have represented the majority of the population, yes.
No, I think personally myself, if the people of Northern Ireland were to stand and have their say, there would be no agreement.
So the question that's being asked of a lot of people who say they're against the agreement is, what is the alternative?
Well, that's my point. What is the alternative? To me, there is no alternative. If there's a yes vote, there'll be trouble, and if there's a no vote, there'll be trouble. It's just a vicious circle.
So you see no sign of an end to the troubles?
Well, personally, no, I don't. There was the Reverend Ian Paisley was in Coleraine here on Friday night. Masses of people listening to him. Don't get me wrong, I back Mr. Paisley for some of the things he says, but again, I would say that he has the wrong way of putting the thing.
In what respect?
Well, if you agree with Mr. Paisley, very good, you know. But if you don't agree, he doesn't want to hear your comment. You know what I mean? I don't know how to put this, really. Mr. Paisley is not for United Ireland.
I think that's fairly clear, yes?
Yes, that's very clear. He's the only one that hasn't sat down at the table and talked. He seems to be on a bandwagon of his own at the moment. Just no, no, no. He has most of the people, I would say, in the Coleraine district on the same vein of thought. Vote no. And if you vote yes, you know, there's going to be trouble.
Okay. Thank you, Mita.
Okay, hi.
Thank you very much indeed.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. And we've done another check just on the vote lines. Remember those numbers given to you in a moment again. And at the moment in Northern Ireland, the yes vote is standing at 45% of calls and the no vote at 55%. So the gap is getting a little shorter than it was. And the yes vote numbers 0891 252 627. The no vote number is 0891 252 628. Matt.
Thank you very much, Harry. Well, we've also been totting up our votes, and the yes here is around 78% at this stage, and the no's is just under 22%, which is very much along the lines of what we've had throughout the programme. If you want to vote yes, if you want to contribute in that regard, it's 1550 131 200. But if you want to vote no, it's 1550 131 201. Well, next on the line is Michael from Templeogue, Dublin. He's on line 4. And I believe, Michael, you think that the agreement is not perfect, but you believe that we should put the past behind us and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, well, first of all, good afternoon, Matt. Pardon me. I believe that the agreement is too important for anybody to give up at this stage. It's a political agreement. It creates a facility whereby peace will come, I feel, in time. That's a more time-consuming process, I think. And there are elements of the agreement I would consider unsavoury, or I wouldn't want to. Well, political prisoners. I think these people. Personally, I believe these people should be locked up and sent to sentences. A crime is a crime is a crime, as Margaret Thatcher says. And I believe these people should not be let out at all. But I would be willing. I would just want to respond to that by saying, I would support the agreement still, especially in light of what Seamus Mallon said in the House of Commons during the week. He sat beside the people who were responsible for the death of a good friend of his, the senator, I think, in 1970s. And I believe that, he just shows you how he leads the way forward. I think, the way he's going about it, I think, is the way people have to go. They have to say, this is a big package. It is all-encompassing, as the last Speaker from the Republic said. It does have things that I feel a lot of people won't agree with. But I mean, on the whole, it's good and it's beneficial to the rest of the country. And I think It's too big a deal to not to seize.
Would you not think that perhaps, Michael, it would have been impossible for a deal to be seen as perfect by everyone, that it had to be a considerable compromise on all sides, and that if there was to be an agreement to find a middle ground, that there is no way that it could actually be seen as perfect by the nationalist side or the unionist side?
Yeah, well, that's my point. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Basically, I believe that, it's all for one. It's all or nothing. Like, you have to take, it's all about compromise. There are people signing here there are people, having problems with this, but yet they're going to go ahead with it because there's such other attractive measures in it for everything else. And I feel as though people should support it regardless. They have a responsibility, have a civic responsibility to their fellow people, all over the Ireland and all over the world, all over the island and all over Britain and Ireland and the world and stuff.
So what would you think of people who are going to vote no?
I feel as though that's irresponsible, to be quite honest. I feel it's irresponsible. I mean, there are things I have major problems with, but there are also things that I feel outweigh this enormously. And I think, we have to look to the future, and I feel as though everybody should get out and vote yes. And could I just say one more thing?
Sure.
On the opinion polls here of the Sunday Supplement is running and the programme in the North, I feel as though they're... sorry, I don't mean to be a grim reaper now,
Sure.
or a professor of gloom or anything or doom, but I feel as though they're not reflective of the actual views. I would actually be more apprehensive about the agreement succeeding in the Republic than I would in the North.
Why is that?
I feel as though there's an awful lot of people that are going to come out and they're going to say, hold on 1 minute, I think there are an awful lot of green sentiments embodied in people's minds down here, and I just hope that they see light before the 22nd of May.
You think that they'll let ideology get in the way of compromise?
Yeah. And I'm a member of a political party in the Republic, and I feel as though, I'm just going to say this now, I feel as though the government and all political parties are not getting out here and they're not mobilising support for the referendum. And I feel that's a major tragedy, and I'm trying to do something about it now in my area, and trying to get my party out. And I feel as though, they will get out, but I mean, I feel as though this thing has been taken too lightly as such. I think we
What
really
party
need to
is
get
that,
into
Michael?
it. I'd rather not say.
Okay.
I'd rather not say.
Okay, fair enough.
Pardon me. It depends now, it mightn't be here, in 2 or 3 years, so not going to bother. You can derive your own sort of inclination from that.
Okay, well, Michael, thank you very much for joining us on the programme this afternoon. We would encourage as many people as possible who want to contribute to this conversation to call us at 1850 85 55 55 within the Republic. We'd also ask you to register your vote. If you want to vote yes in favour of the agreement, it's 1550 131 200. But if you want to register a no vote against the Good Friday Agreement, it's 1550 131 201. Back to you in Belfast, Harry.
And in Northern Ireland, if you want to call the programme and make your point known, it is 01247 815050. If you simply want to register a vote on the vote lines, for yes, it is 0891 252 627. No to the agreement is 0891 252 628. Our next caller in County Tyrone, a gentleman in Omagh. Good morning, or good afternoon.
Hello, Harry.
Yes, sir.
A few things wrote down here to be brief as possible. I am a member of the Church of Ireland of the Protestant faith, of course, just pointing out that not that it matters. What I would say is we can do nothing about the past. We can look to the future. We've had trouble for so long. I have a lot of friends, Roman Catholics, and friends in the Republic of Ireland. Now, I've yet to meet a Roman Catholic friend who wants to go into the Republic of Ireland. They don't want it. And the people in the era or the Republic of Ireland say they don't want trouble, and certainly Northern Ireland is trouble. Who wants trouble? Now, from a Christian point of view, Christ said, sit down with his enemies, talk to them. He said, forgive them. So we can't do nothing about the past. One last thing, just how I want to mention here. On the marches, and I've talked this to Catholic friends and different ones on the marches, why not ban the marches for at least 5 years so the thing settles down? Only have the 17th of March or 12th of July. Anybody else who wants to have marches like these every week, where I live, you have a band parade every week absolute bans especially. I think it's destroying young people. But if they want to have band parades, why not let them, as we're thinking about in England, the footballers, pay for the police time instead of the taxpayer?
So you would have a ban on all parades other than...
The usual old time. We had years ago, 17th of March, 12th of July. But these ones every week. Why not, as we were thinking about what they did in the football in England one time, the organisers of these parades, pay the police overtime.
But if parades are banned, surely you know and I know what could well happen, that there will be attempts to hold the parade anyway.
Well, if they're so good loyal people to the crowd and everything else, and if they're so loyal, why not abide by the law of the country? We've done without them before they started these band parades, and everybody seemed to get on well enough, you know.
Okay, sir.
All right, hi.
Thank you for your call.
Thank you, bye.
Bye-bye. Right, just a reminder of the vote line numbers if you're calling in Northern Ireland. For yes to the agreement, it is 0891 252 627. For no, it is 0891 252 628. And for the calls to make your point of view known on this special cross-border programme on the agreement, it is 01247 815050 if you're in Northern Ireland. Over to Matt.
Okay, Harry, thank you very much. Now, as you know, we're trying to encourage everyone to ring in today, trying to make this for all the people of Ireland, not just people involved in the political process. But we do have on the line with us Fergus Findlay, who was a contributor on a number of occasions throughout the last decade to Irish government policy in relation to Northern Ireland, and was political advisor to Dick Spring. Good afternoon, Fergus.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you for joining us. What comment would you like to make?
Well, I'm just hoping that everything goes well. It seems to me so far that the process seems to be one where it's worked out pretty well as people were predicting. It was always, I think, on the cards that we would end up with an agreement that people could live with rather than that people would love, if you follow me. And it seems to be panning out that way. I've been encouraged, I think, rather than discouraged by the reports of the Sinn Féin Ardèche last weekend, where delegate after delegate was saying this isn't an agreement about a united Ireland. There seemed to be a sense in which they were preparing themselves to settle for less. The general mood appears to be that this isn't perfect from anybody's point of view, but there's enough in it for everybody to live with and work with.
Is that the key,
and therefore, I think it may be the start of something good.
Yeah, is that the key, that people have to be prepared to settle for less than their ideal?
I think so. I think it's always been that way. I used to have an expression that I used along the lines that some people would regard the agreement as transitional, others would regard it as permanent, and the vast majority of us on both parts of the island would hope that it was durable or lasting. And I think it was always about trying to strike the best possible balance and ending up with something that people could live with and work with, and therefore would represent the start rather than the end of a process.
Okay, Fergus, we're just running up towards the 1 o'clock news. I just want to remind our listeners that if they want to ring us, it's 1850 85 55 55.
You're listening to a special phone-in on the Stormont Agreement on province-wide downtown radio and on Ireland's national independent station Today FM with Matt Cooper in Dublin and Harry Castles in Belfast. We're going through until 2 o'clock, and we can give you numbers for vote lines, whether you want to vote yes or no to the Stormont Agreement, and we, of course, will be giving you numbers on which you can call us and make your point this afternoon. And we go to our next caller now in Northern Ireland. That is a lady in Belfast. Good afternoon. Hello. Do we have our lady in Belfast? By the way, if I could
Good afternoon.
Yes. Good afternoon. We found you. Hello.
Hello, Harry.
Yes.
It's on the agreement on two things. I asked a leading member of the negotiating teams in Stormont what the difference between the agreement and the heads of the agreement document were when one was signed by everybody but Sinn Féin, and then the other, it was taken back and the other agreement sent out. Now, his answer to that was, well, we didn't get equity. And if you don't get equity, then you don't get honesty, you don't get fairness, you don't get openness, and you don't get justice. Then I asked him why the Charter for Human Rights was not adopted into ERA law the same as ours. And he said, well, we fought for it. And by the way, I asked the coalition, the Women's Coalition, this question too, and they both gave the same answer at different times. They asked for this, and they were refused. They said that they would take some of Europe's human rights and some of international human rights